For some reason, you were the one who had to get involved. At first, the icy tone of Mom's voice echoed through the room as she stared coldly at the empty living space. I stood frozen, her words piercing something deep inside me, right around my belly button where life was forming, and yet where I felt so unseen. I'm Moran, 25 years old, a stay-at-home wife. My sister, Tara, is 3 years older than me and has always been the one Mom preferred, at least up until the day I came back to announce I was pregnant. I had secretly hoped the news would be a turning point, that this baby, Mom's first grandchild, might bring us closer, that somehow becoming a grandmother would soften her. That hope was naive. The tension started even before I could speak. Our visit began at Tara's house. She greeted us warmly. "Hi, Moran, it's been a while," offering her usual pleasant smile. Dad couldn't be there, he was working, but said he'd come later. But the moment Mom saw me, her smile turned brittle. When she looked at Warner, my husband, it vanished altogether. She forced a fake grin. "Oh my, I'm completely unprepared. We were on our way to meet you. Please, give us a moment." She hurried to the kitchen, where she baked a tray of cookies, all of them overly sweet. She knows I don't like sugary things, but Warner, he loves them. And Mom remembered that too well. "Sweet things don't appeal to Moran, do they?" she said casually. I forced a smile. Warner, ever the gentle one, said, "It's not about the food, it's who you share it with that matters." We sat down together. I placed myself on the sofa and took a deep breath. "I was here to say something important. I came today to share some news," I began, but Mom's cold stare cut me off. "I'm pregnant." A silence fell over the room. It was heavy, uncomfortable. Tara was the first to respond, lighting up with a bright smile. "Moran, congratulations!" But Mom's expression darkened. Warner stood and quietly walked outside. Tara left for a business call. I went to the kitchen to brew some tea, hoping for a reset. That's when Mom cornered me. "Why did it have to be you?" she said, voice shaking with anger barely held in check. "Why you?" Before I could answer, she lashed out. She kicked me. Hard. Right in the stomach, I screamed. The pain was immediate and searing. I fell to the ground, clutching my belly. Tara, rushing back in from the kitchen, yelled, "Mom, what are you doing?" I couldn't move. I sat on the floor, legs crossed, trying to breathe through the agony. Warner sprinted in. Tara called for an ambulance. Warner helped me up as Tara glared at our mother. "You kicked Moran," she cried, stunned. "You really did it." Mom stood there, cold and unmoved. The wailing of the ambulance siren echoed outside. As the medics lifted me onto the stretcher, I looked into Mom's eyes. There was no warmth there, only old, buried rage. 25 years of it. Tara held my hand all the way to the hospital. In that air ambulance, I held her arm tightly, knowing what I had to do. It was time to cut ties with our mother. Warner followed in his car, his promise to stay by my side, never once breaking. Tara kept apologizing. I knew. I just didn't know how bad it was," she said over and over. The ambulance ride seemed endless. Outside, rain poured down as we pulled up to the hospital. The streetlights flickered softly through the windows. Lying in the bed, I drifted into memory. When had it started? When had Mom begun treating me this way? I couldn't pinpoint it. It must have been before I was old enough to understand. Mom, a former beauty queen, still carried herself like one. Tara inherited that same elegance. People often asked, "Aren't you Patricia's daughter?" with admiration. Mom would beam with pride when it came to Tara. With me, I always felt like the letdown. I remember one Christmas clearly. I was 8. Tara was 11. Under the tree were presents wrapped in shiny paper. Tara unwrapped a box that held a dress from Mom's favorite brand. She squealed with joy. "Perfect for my beautiful girl." Mom said. Then it was my turn. I opened my box, plain jeans and a basic t-shirt, probably on sale from Amazon. These are more your style, Mom commented. I smiled back then, hiding my disappointment. Just what I wanted. The same went for food. Tara was encouraged to eat more, but my portions? Always limited. That's enough for you, Moran, she'd say. In high school, Tara became a cheerleader. Mom never missed a game, snapping pictures with pride. When it came to me, she rarely showed up. Dad, he tried. He'd pat my head and say, "Good job," before rushing off to work. But I don't think he ever really saw the way. Mom treated us differently. I didn't realize how strange it all was until a conversation with my best friend, Serena. "Your mom's really harsh, Moran," she said gently one day. "What do you mean?" "She splurges on Tara's clothes, and she just treats you like an afterthought." Serena's words were the first time anyone outside my family said what I had always felt. Tara didn't know. She thought I liked things simple. "Moran, you're so cute. You don't need fancy stuff," she'd say. She'd offer to share her clothes, but I knew I'd just look foolish in them. Mom's favoritism became crueler when Dad wasn't around. When it was just us, "Why aren't you more like Tara?" she'd demand. I never answered. Crying would only make her angrier. On my 16th birthday, Mom didn't get me anything, but my friends surprised me with a makeup kit. It's still one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever received. That's when I decided I needed to leave. I moved out right after graduating high school. Mom once told me that just finishing high school wouldn't get me anywhere, that I'd never amount to much without a college degree. But all that did was light a fire in me. Tara, of course, went straight to college. Mom and Dad spent all their savings to make that happen. "This tuition is worth it," Mom had said with pride. No one ever talked about saving anything for my education. That unfairness stung, but I pushed myself. I kept my grades up through high school, worked part-time delivering food, and started saving for college on my own. Those memories swirled around in my head as I lay in that hospital bed, hooked to monitors. The rhythmic beeping was oddly calming. It reminded me that I was still here, that the baby inside me was still here too. The doctor walked in, gave me a reassuring smile, and said, "The baby is doing fine." I closed my eyes and breathed in deeply. Yes, I was that strong, independent woman now. And I silently promised myself I would never raise my child the way my mother raised me. Outside the window, the summer sky was fading to a deep, quiet red. Warner arrived early the next morning. He smiled gently, asking, "How are you holding up? Everything okay with work?" That moment reminded me of how far we'd come. 3 years had passed since I graduated. I still remember how hard it was at first. I worked at a diner while sending out resumes. Most interviews didn't go well. "High school diploma only," they'd say, barely hiding their doubt. But I didn't give up. I applied everywhere. 30 interviews later, I finally got hired as a customer service rep at an IT firm. The HR manager had said, "We value your determination more than a fancy degree." That's where I met Warner. He was a systems engineer, kind and calm. He helped me one day when I was having trouble with the printer. From then on, we talked during breaks and slowly started spending time together outside of work. One day, I told him about my family, the painful memories, the favoritism, the loneliness. I was afraid he might pull away after hearing all of it, but he didn't. He simply held me and said, "None of that defines who you are. You're special, Moran." With him, I finally felt safe. About a year into our relationship, right after the company's holiday party, he asked me to marry him. We were walking under the city lights when he stopped, smiled, and said, "Would you marry me?" I said yes, right away. No hesitation, no fear. We returned to my family to share the news. Mom's reaction was, unsurprisingly, cold. No decent man would marry a girl who only has a high school diploma, she said flatly. But then she found out Warner was an engineer. Suddenly, she became all smiles and fake warmth. It made me uncomfortable, but Warner handled it with quiet strength. He never let her mood shake him. Tara, on the other hand, was genuinely happy for me. She hugged me and said, "I'm really glad for you, Moran. I'll help however I can." Dad, too, seemed pleased. "Not a big wedding, but it'll be good," he said. At the wedding, Mom kept up appearances smiling, complimenting me, but later whispered in my ear, "Let's hope this works out. It didn't hurt me like it would have in the past." Not anymore. Warner's parents were warm and welcoming. His mother treated me like her own daughter. "Your cooking is wonderful," she'd say sweetly when we cooked together. Even at work, my managers began giving me more responsibility. I helped train new hires. Eventually, I earned my GED, completing what I'd been denied years ago. After we married, Warner and I found out we were expecting. He was overjoyed. He called his parents right away. They were thrilled and immediately mailed over baby gear catalogs. But I hesitated to tell my own mom. Still, part of me held on to that small, lingering hope that this baby might change things between us. Warner had already spoken to Tara, who sounded excited. She helped set a date for a family lunch so I could share the news. But lying in that hospital bed now, all I could think was, what a nightmare it had become. I glanced over at the bouquet Warner had brought. Its soft fragrance filled the room. The world seemed to blur as I remembered Mom's face, her voice, that look in her eyes. Still, deep down, I reminded myself, I had something precious now. A caring husband, a child on the way, and a future worth protecting. A nurse walked in to check the monitors. "You're stable," she said kindly, "but we'll need to monitor the baby closely." I nodded, exhausted but calm. Then the door creaked open. Dad stepped in first, his eyes filled with something like guilt. Mom followed behind. I tensed. "Moran," Dad began, his voice rough. "There's been a lot of pain." Tara, standing nearby, confronted them. "Did you really think we'd all just ignore what happened?" Dad tried to reason. "Your mother didn't mean I saw her," Tara snapped. She stomped on Moran. "I was there." Mom stayed quiet. Her face was pale, unreadable. "We're not going to pretend this didn't happen," Tara said firmly. A social worker entered the room. She spoke softly, but her words were firm. "This is serious. There may be legal consequences. A pregnant woman was assaulted. If you'd like to press charges, we can help arrange that." I sat in silence. Tara reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. Warner gave a small nod from the corner, his eyes fixed on Mom. The social worker continued, "You're not alone, Moran. You don't have to carry this by yourself anymore." I took a deep breath. Everything inside me said it was time to stop hiding, time to stop pretending things had ever been okay. For 25 years, I'd kept quiet about the pain I endured, but now I couldn't stay silent anymore. "Dad," I began, my voice unsteady. For years, I was scared to say anything. I didn't think anyone would believe me. The words hung in the air, heavy, uncomfortable. Tara looked at me, her eyes brimming with emotion. She was terrified, she said softly. Even I didn't see how deep it went. I turned toward Mom. Her expression was unreadable. She stood there like a statue, unmoved, unbothered. "Every time you were kind to Tara," one said, "you made me feel invisible. When we were alone, you were cruel, unforgiving, always comparing me to her." Dad's face was tense. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "I wanted to," I admitted, "but you were always busy. You didn't see it. And honestly, I didn't think you'd believe me." Mom always looked like the perfect mother in front of others. Tara wiped her eyes and whispered, "I should have seen more." "I'm sorry, Moran." "It's not your fault," I said gently. Then, to my shock, Mom spoke. Her voice trembled. I was only trying to make her better. You were always so weak, so plain. I thought if I pushed you hard enough, maybe you'd toughen up, be more like Tara." She looked down, blinking fast. "But you were never like her." Tara stepped forward. "Mom, that's not love. That's abuse." For a moment, Mom looked like she might cry. But then something shifted in her face. A hardened edge returned. She turned toward Warner, her voice biting. "I raised her, and this is how she repays me? You think I'm the villain here?" Warner didn't flinch. "You don't get to rewrite what happened," the social worker calmly interrupted. "Moran, would you like to request a restraining order? We can start the paperwork now." I hesitated. Then I nodded. "Yes, please." In that moment, Mom's mask cracked. "You ungrateful little girl. After everything I did for you, you let this man and your sister turn you against me?" She lunged at me, but Warner stepped in, blocking her. Dad grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled her back, yelling for the nurses. It was chaos for a few seconds, but then it was over. Security escorted her out of the hospital room. Silence returned. Dad stood there, looking completely broken. "I'm sorry," he finally whispered. "I should have done more. I should have known." I believed him. For the first time in my life, I felt like he truly saw me. A few weeks later, the court granted a protective order. Mom was ordered to stay away from me and from my unborn child. She moved in with relatives, though she still tried to contact me. But this time, I didn't reply. Tara became a constant in my recovery. She visited daily, holding my hand through every doctor's appointment, every restless night. She apologized often, but I kept reminding her she wasn't the one who hurt me. Warner's parents, too, were a lifeline. His mother brought homemade soups and warm blankets to the hospital, calling me our precious girl with genuine love in her eyes. Eventually, I was released from the hospital. The doctor gently touched my belly and smiled. "She's doing well," he said. "Your baby is strong." Spring was in full bloom. Warner helped me into the wheelchair, and Tara walked beside us. My dad walked quietly on the other side, his head low but his presence comforting. For the first time, I felt like I was part of a family. Not the one I was born into, but the one I'd chosen, and who had chosen me back. As I was helped into the car, Dad leaned in and whispered, "From now on, I'll be the kind of parent you deserve." And I believed him. Weeks passed. I spent my days resting, preparing for the baby, and building a peaceful life. Warner was always nearby, reliable, tender, my anchor. Then came the day our daughter was born. It was a long labor, 16 hours of pain and waiting and tears. But then, at last, she arrived. I heard her cry before I even saw her. The nurse gently placed her in my arms. Her skin was red and wrinkled, her fists clenched tight, and yet, in that moment, I had never seen anything more beautiful. "Nikki," I whispered. I had chosen her name long ago, a name filled with light, with hope. Tara stood at my side, tears falling freely. "She's perfect," she said, rubbing my wrist. "She's absolutely perfect." Warner leaned down and kissed my forehead, whispering, "You did it." We all cried then. Later, Dad saw Nikki in the waiting room and said, "She looks just like you did, Moran, when you were born." His eyes filled with tears. 3 months passed. Mom never came to visit. The only thing I received from her was a voice message, cold, bitter. "You embarrassed me in that hospital. I'll never forgive you." That was the last I heard from her. And honestly, that was okay. Each morning, I woke up thinking of Nikki, not with fear or pain, but with a calm determination. I would not repeat my mother's mistakes. I would raise Nikki with love, with respect, and with unshakable support. Tara moved to a nearby neighborhood and visited often. She adored Nikki. "She has your eyes," she'd say, holding her close. "She does," I'd smile. "Brown eyes, just like mine." Warner's dad retired early just so he could spend more time with his granddaughter. I want to see her grow up, he said. Every weekend, I'll be there. And he was. One day, while Nikki napped, my dad turned to me and said something I'll never forget. You've turned into an incredible woman, Moran. You broke the cycle. His words brought tears to my eyes. In that moment, I felt seen, truly seen for the first time in my life. Time has a way of softening even the sharpest edges, but it doesn't erase them. I still remember what it felt like growing up unseen, unheard. But I also remember the moment I chose to become more than that. The moment I chose to become something different for my child. Nikki turned 6 months old last week. We threw a small celebration at home. Warner's parents were there, full of smiles. Tara came with her boyfriend, and Dad arrived with a carefully wrapped gift, a handmade quilt, sewn piece by piece. The room was full of warmth, laughter, familiar voices. It was everything I once thought I'd never have. Warner leaned in during the party and whispered, "Feels peaceful, doesn't it?" Outside the window, the sun was setting. Nikki was asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. Tara and Dad sat nearby, chatting softly. My in-laws were in the corner, snapping pictures and sharing stories. I smiled. For the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. I had been given a chance to rewrite what family meant, to give Nikki the kind of start I never had. I would never let her feel small. I would never let her feel like she didn't matter. I had sworn that to myself in the hospital, and I've kept that promise every day since. She reached for me that evening, her little hand curling around my finger. Her touch was gentle, but certain. To me, it felt like a message. Everything's going to be okay now. Maybe this quiet, joyful moment was where our real story began. Spring air drifted in through the open window, carrying the scent of fresh blooms. Trees swayed just beyond the glass. Nikki stirred, then settled back into sleep. It was a quiet evening, and yet I could feel something shifting. A few days later, I found a letter in our mailbox. It had no return address. I didn't need to open it to know who it was from. Still, I read it. Mom's handwriting filled the page. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She only wrote, "You made your choice. I hope you can live with it." And I could. I folded the letter, placed it in the drawer, and didn't look at it again. Some things don't need answers. What mattered was right in front of me. My daughter, my husband, my sister, my father, the family I built from the ashes of what I lost. Warner's mother often stops by with hand-knitted baby clothes. She takes such pride in dressing Nikki. "Look at this little outfit," she beams. "My granddaughter's going to be the best dressed in town." Her warmth fills every room she enters. Being a parent hasn't always been easy. Some nights, we're up with Nikki until dawn, pacing the floor. Some days I cry quietly, worrying if I'm doing enough. But I know I'm not alone anymore. When I need help, I ask. And when I'm afraid, I remind myself, this time, love lives in our home. Tara and I talk often now, not just about the past, but about the future, about Nikki, about life. She said once, "You saved us both, Moran. You saved me from pretending things were okay." We've started attending a support group together, a small gathering of women with complicated family histories. Just like ours. We listen, we share, we heal. At one recent meeting, I found myself saying something I never thought I could say out loud. I'm not alone anymore. It was true. Bit by bit, with every word, I've reclaimed my voice. That same week, we held a tiny gathering for Nikki's 6-month birthday. Tara made cupcakes. Warner grilled dinner. Our closest friends came by with cards and tiny baby gifts. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror during the party, smiling, holding Nikki close, and I barely recognized the woman I'd become. Not because I looked different, but because I felt whole. Warner whispered, You did this, but I didn't do it alone. I had help. I had love. And that made all the difference. After everyone left, I sat on the porch with Nikki in my lap. The stars had come out. She was wide awake, gazing up at the night sky. "You're going to grow up loved," I whispered. "You're going to know what it means to feel safe." She blinked, then cooed softly, her little fingers brushing against my cheek. I knew then the past had shaped me, but it would not define her. That night, as Warner carried Nikki inside, I stood under the stars a moment longer. A soft breeze passed through the trees. The world felt quiet and kind, and I made one more promise, that no matter what, I would protect her heart the way mine should have been protected, that I would be the kind of mother I never had. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to break the cycle for good. Sometimes, family isn't defined by blood, but by love, respect, and the courage to start again. Moran's story reminds us that no matter how deep the wounds of the past run, healing is still possible, especially when we choose to break the cycle. Many of us were raised in times when speaking out wasn't encouraged, where keeping quiet was mistaken for strength. But true strength often comes from facing painful truths, standing firm in our self-worth, and creating a safer, kinder space for the next generation. For older viewers, this story may stir memories of hurt that went unspoken, of roles we were expected to play, or of children and grandchildren we now try to love better than we were once loved. It reminds us it's never too late to change, to make amends, or to be someone's safe place. We may not be able to rewrite our past, but we can shape what comes next with compassion, with intention, and with the quiet power of showing up for those who need us most. Have you ever had to build your own version of family? If Moran's journey resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.